Hi guys, so self-described Brexit Hardman Steve Baker was speaking at a committee regarding vaccine passports. Now, Steve Baker used to be a member of the European Research Group, the ERG. He's now a member of the COVID Recovery Group. He describes himself as a libertarian, somebody who cares about personal freedom. Well, that's a big pile of crap, because if you look at a vote that took place recently, he voted in favour of the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, which limits people's right to protest. It's about reducing people's liberty to protest against the government. And Steve Baker, self-described libertarian and freedom lover, voted with the government here. So anything he has to say going forward in regards to personal freedom, please take it with a pinch of salt. So let's hear what he had to say.
Steve Baker.
Thank you, Sir David, and I refer to the declarations I've made in relation to the COVID Recovery Group. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed or numbered. My life is my own. I quote, of course, from the popular drama in 1967, The Prisoner. It seems to me that nothing has changed in relation to some people's desire to treat us as commodities to be managed by the state. And yet what has changed is the availability of technology to make it so. I'm very grateful to my constituents who've written to me about this matter, and I just would point out we've had a prior debate on this subject, or at least in which I raised this subject, and I thought that my honourable friend, the Minister for Vaccines, had ruled out vaccine passports.
Now, something I find strange is that I assume that Steve Baker has an actual passport. I'm not talking about a vaccine passport, I'm talking about a regular passport. I assume he has travelled to different parts of the world where he needed to have a piece of paper that would permit him to enter that country. So how is this different than a passport or an ID card that permits you to enter some establishment?
And I'm very grateful, therefore, to have this opportunity to hear from the Minister at this stage in the review through this petition, and I'm grateful to the petitioners. I also want to say thank you to Big Brother Watch, who provided a very helpful brief with 9 reasons why COVID passes must be stopped, and I would like to just briefly race through as many as I can squeeze in. First, that they will be unnecessary. The availability of effective vaccines, and indeed the government's amazing success in rolling them out.
The government's amazing success in rolling them out. Notice he doesn't talk about the NHS here, and this is typical from the Tories. The NHS is the success story here, not the government. If we want to look towards the government, well, you can look at the Circle Test and Trace, £37 billion handed over to a private company. Now, the reason the vaccine rollout has been a success is thanks to the NHS, not thanks to Boris Johnson's government.
Means that those most vulnerable to COVID-19, and soon anyone who wants and is medical eligible for a vaccine, will have a high level of protection from the virus.
See, the problem here is that some people will decide not to have the vaccine. And do we want those people frequenting places where there are people who can't have the vaccine? So, some people will want to enter a building. If they're unable to have a vaccine because of a medical reason, well, we need to protect those and allow those people to enter. But we want to keep out people who have decided, I don't want the vaccine because of some ridiculous reason. And those people are likely to continue to spread the virus.
That means hospitalisations and deaths associated with COVID will drastically fall, and overbearing controls on society will not be justified. I know the government is now looking at COVID status certificates, which brings into play the issue of mass testing. Of course, the ground has been sown with salt on the issue of false positives, I'm sorry to say, often by some apparently eminent people who lamentably neglected the practical evidence from hospitals of real people with real disease. So I hesitate to bring up the issue of false positives, but it has to be said, as we reach an era of low prevalence of the disease, if we carry out mass testing on asymptomatic people, the issue of false positives will undoubtedly be relevant, and we need to hear from the Minister what she's going to do about it to make sure that people who test falsely positive with lateral flow tests, and indeed PCR, don't end up deprived of their liberty unnecessarily. And we very much need to hear from government about that. Of course, vaccine passports would be discriminatory. They would have the effect of socially and economically excluding people who had not had either a vaccine or a recent test result. It is, of course, unlawful under equality law to discriminate against people with protected characteristics, including age, disability, pregnancy, religion or belief. And I underscore belief.
I underscore belief. So there are people who don't believe in vaccines. They should be permitted to enter buildings and infect others who can't have the vaccine. People like Steve Baker didn't want any lockdown. They didn't want any restrictions. They wanted businesses just to open up and allow people to move freely around. These people are more interested in protecting businesses than protecting lives. They don't give a crap about protecting lives. They don't give a crap about personal liberty. This is about protecting businesses. Businesses that want to reopen, want to start operating again. Probably Steve Baker is involved in some of these businesses. I don't know. But this is not about protecting the public or protecting the NHS. As you've even heard, he's congratulating the government for the rollout of the vaccine when it's actually the NHS that's been doing all of the work.
I shall have my vaccine when I'm offered it, but there'll be various people for various reasons who will not choose to do so. Effectively making vaccines mandatory by implication through COVID status certification, could leave us in a position where it would be counterproductive. The evidence from across...
This is the type of person who would have advocated against seatbelts back in the 1970s, or advocated against smoking bans in the early 2000s. You know, we don't want to protect the public. We don't want to protect people who have, health issues. We don't want any sort of controls to protect the public. Well, what is the role of government if it's not to provide to the public and protect them? I'm sure that if there was a bill to increase military spending, Steve Baker wouldn't have a problem with that. And he'd advocate for, we need to protect the public. We need to invest more in the military in order to protect the public.
Across Europe shows that if people feel compelled to take vaccines, it puts them off. It would implement, of course, a checkpoint society. Passes for the pub. That would be what it would mean, Sir David. If you want to have your pint, you've got to show your papers. I did not think that was the society we wished to live in. A surveillance state would be instituted. There'd be mission creep. They'd be
and then what they do is they jump to the slippery slope argument, or fallacy in a sense. The idea that, if we implement this, then it's going to expand in other directions. But once again, his voting record shows that he doesn't really actually care about these issues. If he truly cared about people's liberty, why the hell did he vote to take away people's right to protest? Once again, anything he's saying is just air. He doesn't actually mean what he's saying here.
Irreversible, they'd be divisive, and of course they'd infringe on the autonomy of the individual. And I lament that I haven't got time to go through in detail each of those points, but I certainly will provide the brief to the Minister afterwards. I want to finish with another quote from the prisoner, something which I would ask people advocating for these certification regimes to bear in mind. Number 2 says, "We can treat folly with kindness, knowing that soon his wild spirit will quieten and the foolishness will fall away to reveal a model citizen." And number 6 replies, "That day you'll never see."
Why is Steve Baker doing this? I believe it's twofold. I think it's about maintaining his position. He wants to remain relevant within the party. Perhaps he wants to become Prime Minister someday, or at least have a cabinet position. The other alternative is that he cares about businesses. Businesses are putting pressure on him. Perhaps they're funding him, and they say, look, put some pressure on the government to reopen the economy as soon as possible, because we want to start trading again. We don't care about our workers. We don't care about our customers. We don't care about the general public. We want to start trading because we need to make a profit. So, Steve Baker, you can be our advocate. You can be our voice in Parliament. We will support you wherever we can. And you will be the one who will bring the economy back as to the way it was before. So I don't know whether Steve Baker is on the side of just developing his own career within politics, or whether he's doing this to he's serving certain business interests. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?